In Guatemala, social movements denounced an attempted electoral coup after a federal prosecutor requested the suspension of the Semilla party. Candidate Bernardo Arevalo said they will not comply with an unconstitutional order. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warns that the delivery of F-16 to Ukraine will be considered a nuclear threat. And in Kenya, the fifth mid-year coordination meeting between the African Union, Regional Economic Communities, and Regional Mechanisms Organization kicked off. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Alene Brosabal from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Guatemala, several social movements announced the attempted electoral coup after the decision of the polling ministry to suspend the political party Semilla and its candidate Bernardo Arevalo, who should face the former First Lady Sandra Torres in the runoff. The organization's Transparencia Internacional Acción Ciudadana, among others, stated in a communiqué that the decision to suspend the political party Semilla is illegal and urged the Supreme Electoral Tribunal to ignore the judicial resolution. According to different social entities, the objective of the criminal suspension of Semilla is to carry out an electoral coup equivalent to a coup d'etat. On Wednesday, Guatemalan social movements rejected the decision of prosecutor Rafael Curriche in the sense the Altiplano Farmer Committee holds him responsible for several acts that have endangered the country's democracy.
Yes, very good evening. This meeting has been called as a matter of urgency to pronounce ourselves on the current context that the country is going through regarding the electoral process. The tribunal is making a pronouncement today, which for us is a demagogy discourse. It is a discourse that practically intends to neutralize the population, while they continue to prepare really. How can attempt against our democracy in the country?
In this context, Bernardo Arevalo's Semilla party filed an appeal with the Constitutional Court against the Criminal Court's decision to disqualify the party, suspending its legal personality on the eve of a runoff election.
What they are trying to do is invent a case, as we have already denounced, to bring down the party of the candidacy of Bernardo Arevalo. Today we have filed an injunction to prevent the Supreme Electoral Tribunal from being forced to comply with illegal orders. The illegal order is the resolution of Judge Orellana to suspend the Semilla party at the request of impunity prosecutor Rafael Curruchiche. And what we are going to do with this injunction is to protect the vote of the people of Guatemala that has already been expressed at the ballot box.
However, the plenary of magistrates of the Guatemalan Supreme Electoral Tribunal made official the results of the elections with the presidential candidates that will go to the runoff election.
We have to rule in this case. We have not been notified at this moment, or we are not aware of it. We were in a plenary meeting, and we are not aware at this moment of the scope of this resolution as such. Definitely, it is something that worries us as a court, because we know that elections are won at the ballot boxes as a result of the sacred vote of the citizens. And that is why we have been working for a long time to prepare the first and the eventual runoff elections. We know it is not eventual. We know that it is.
And in a later turn of events, Guatemala's public prosecutor's office says the Supreme Electoral Tribunal headquarters following the complaint against Semilla party. The Special Prosecutor's Office for Impunity informed that they carried out an inspection, search, and evidence seizure operation. The Police Ministry informed that this is due to a claim against Semilla political party, which states that a citizen was illegally adhered to that entity. According to the Forensic Expert report carried out by the National Institute of Forensic Sciences, it was concluded that the signature and entry of the plaintiff were forged. In Ecuador, the Electoral Authority announced that presidential candidates can start campaigning this Thursday for the August 20th elections. The National Electoral Council extended the electoral campaign more than a month after confirming that all the appeals have been resolved. The process was originally scheduled for August 8th to the 17th. The electoral authorities also decided to increase the electoral promotion fund. Two councillors, Elena Najera and Stella Acero, abstained because they considered that the decision violated the political rights of the organizations.
The calendar and action plan for the 2023 presidential and legislative elections has been updated. The electoral campaign period has been extended from July 13th through August 17th, 2023. It should be noted this extension only applies to the category of president and vice president, which had already closed at the administrative and jurisdictional level. The decision was made taking into account the need of the people to fully know what the government agenda of the candidates is, so that they can vote responsibly.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, new dates, and more. All the studies coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Brazilian government of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva announced the closure of the national program of military schools created by the former president Jair Bolsonaro. After a meeting between the Defense and Education Ministries, authorities decided the greater closure of the program. During the dismantling of the military's education program, the students will be transferred step by step, guaranteeing the continuity and the completion of the school year. In this sense, the program will enter a phase of demobilization without threatening the student's school term or the teacher's position linked with the project. On Thursday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that the Western Bloc's F-16 fighter jets transferred to Ukraine will be considered a nuclear threat, as these aircraft are capable of carrying nuclear weapons. The head of the Russian diplomacy addressed in particular the United States, the United Kingdom, and France, pointing out that they are aware of the capability of these aircraft. Lavrov assured in an interview to a Russian media that the appearance of these systems in the Ukrainian armed forces will be considered as a threat from the Western powers in the nuclear field. In this sense, he specified that Russia has clearly defined conditions for the use of these weapons in its military doctrine. Turkey government approved Sweden's membership in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. At a closing press conference at the NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania on Wednesday, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that they would send the corresponding law to Parliament for the new post-session. Erdogan stated that the steps Sweden has to follow for the admission process have already been determined, and that those include a roadmap in the fight against terrorism. In Italy, authorities registered the first death amid a scorching heat wave hitting Europe, reaching record highs of 45 degrees Celsius. The victim was a 44-year-old construction worker who died on a roadside in Lodi City, in the north of the country. Given the seriousness of the situation, some parliamentarians and politicians, as Nicola Frattoniani, requested a regulation to protect workers. The heat in Italy has also affected the tourism industry. Last Tuesday, several tourists collapsed in Rome as a result of a heat stroke. In the U.S. northwestern state of Vermont, over 100 people had to be evacuated due to historic flooding caused by torrential rains in the last few hours. According to local media, rescue workers had to use inflatable boats to evacuate the residents of the affected areas. The floods occurred mainly in the state capital, Montpelier, Governor Phil Scott said that the devastation and floods are of catastrophic proportions, surpassing the damage caused by Tropical Storm Irene. U.S. President Joe Biden declared a state of emergency in Vermont, which allows federal aid to be released. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Thursday, Wang Yi, director of the Office of Foreign Affairs Commission of China's Central Committee of the Communist Party, met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the sidelines of the Asian Foreign Ministers meeting in Jakarta. Wang told Blinken the key to bringing the relationship back on the right track was taking practical actions and said the United States should adopt a rational and pragmatic attitude and meet China halfway. Both sides said the two agreed to maintain communication, and the meeting is the latest in a series of interactions since Blinken visited China in June to smooth tensions between the world's two largest economies. U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry is scheduled to visit China from July 16 to 19th. The fifth mid-year coordination meeting between the African Union, the Regional Economic Communities, and the Regional Mechanisms Organization began in Nairobi, Kenya, amidst the conflicts and various crises affecting most of the continent's member states. At least 14 heads of states and 51 foreign ministers from the African Union member participate in the high-level meeting with the future implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area as a main topic. The Executive Council is set to hold their 43rd ordinary session from July 14-15, while the heads of state will meet on July 16. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua said the meeting seeks to consider and approve the financial budget for 2024 and assess the implementation of the bloc decisions and also adopt the decision on substantive issues of continental interest.
This 43rd ordinary session of the Executive Council is taking place at a time and within the special context of the international scene marked by conflicts and various crises. Our continent has not been spared. It has suffered head-on the various upheavals and deflagrations which have worsened the already fragile situation. The war in the Sudan, the conflict in eastern DRC, the transition process in Mali and Burkina Faso and Guinea, the war, Russia and Ukraine, which is weighing heavily and negatively on the agricultural production of Africa. And these are so many concerns which in fact remain at the very heart of our political and diplomatic program.
President Ibrahim Raisi was received with a red carpet welcome in Zimbabwe on Thursday on the last leg of the first tour of Africa by an Iranian leader in 11 years. Zimbabwe's President Emerson Mnangagwa greeted Raisi, a brother, on the tarmac after the Iranian leader's plane landed at Robert Mugabe International Airport in the capital. Hundreds of people, many from the Southern African country's Muslim community, including women wearing hair scarves and school children holding welcome banners, went to the airport to receive the Iranian leader. These visits take place in the context of Raisi's African tour, which seeks to boost relations with the region. On Wednesday in Uganda, he signed 5 cooperation agreements on veterinary, medicine, communication, cultures, fisheries, and technology. The Iranian president stressed that unlike some countries that hold colonialist and exploitative view towards African nations, Iran's vision is one of cooperation with Africa based on synergy and human dignity. This African tour marks Iran's latest diplomatic effort to forge new alliances to offset the impact of sanctions reimposed since the 2018 U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. Saudi Arabia agreed to the decision of the United Nations Human Rights Council condemning Quran burning. According to Saudi authorities, the Council's action has shown the principle of respect for religions and cultures and contributes to promotion of human values supported by international law. The resolution rejected any destructive acts that seek to promote hatred and extremism. The decision was announced after massive protests around the world against the burning of Quran on May 28th in Stockholm, in front of mosque. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alene Brosabal. Thank you for watching.